on this rap-ish. I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list. Hope I ain't missing my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu. And I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody's south of Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and plan to getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
X-ray season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that, hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it
hate
for
these
us.
average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my own flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete. I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
Hello, Grand Rising, and good morning to all of you beautiful folks out there. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and I am extending a happy Tuesday to all of you. We have a really great show lined up, and I know you guys know already. I got to bring in my co-host, Big O. What up, Big O? Happy Tuesday.
All right, Trey Holiday, happy Tuesday. This is actually our second show today.
Yeah.
We were on at 8:55 this morning with Councilmember Tammy Morales. You can watch that whole live interview across any of our platforms. Real interesting conversation, and we'll dive into it, but not today.
Yeah, very interesting indeed.
You guys can go and watch that interview, and we'll talk about it more tomorrow. First of all, again, I want to welcome everybody to the Morning Update Show and remind you that right now is the perfect opportunity to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people who you feel could appreciate culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the Emerald City. Also, I want to give a big shout out to our partners, South Seattle Emerald and KBCS 91.3 over there at Bellevue College. A few other things here. Reminder that, man, you can catch the Morning Update Show on anywhere that you listen to podcasts. So anywhere that you listen to podcasts, you can catch the Morning Update Show, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google, on and on, iTunes. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people that drive in, this and that. You can now listen to us, which is great. Also, our reminder here for as far as vaccinations. So vaccinations are concerned, you no longer need an appointment here in the city of Seattle. You can find a vaccination location, hours in operation, and just kind of show up. So vaccinations are out and they're abundant and they're going on. And the last thing, Trey Holiday, is that we're joined today by Justin Carter, Jay Seattle himself. It's been a minute. Got a handcrafted graphic for him. Been a while since we checked in with Justin Carter at Capitol Hill Seattle blog.
Yeah, I'm so glad he'll be here today. You're right, because for a minute there, it was like Justin was on every week or something. So we definitely miss him. Glad that he's back joining us today.
Justin was like unofficial co-host during CHOP, man. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
This guy, he stayed on it. So we got some breaking news here coming out of Elizabeth City, North Carolina. A lot of you guys might know that's exactly where I went to school, in Elizabeth City, at Elizabeth City State University. We've been following this story kind of close. Andrew Brown Jr., the district attorney, came out today and said, hey, man, there was no evidence the police did anything wrong.
On Wednesday, April 21st, 2021, Andrew Brown Jr. of Elizabeth City, North Carolina, was shot and killed by 3 deputies with the Pasco County Sheriff's Office. This incident occurred at the residence of Mr. Brown, located at 421 Perry Street in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. After reviewing the investigation conducted by the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, Mr. Brown's death, while tragic, was justified because Mr. Brown's actions caused 3 deputies with the Pasco County Sheriff's Office to reasonably believe it was necessary to use deadly force to protect themselves and others.
But now you can see, so they're saying that the officers did not do anything wrong, but you could understand why there's doubt in the public space, because these tapes have yet to be released to the public.
Yeah, this is always going to be about transparency when we see police shootings. Ultimately, this is the reason for body cams. This is the reason why people want to see for themselves what really transpired. So you know what? I think there's a lot of people that are going to be waiting until that footage comes out and gets released before they really make a real opinion on where they stand on this. It's just one of those things, man. We need that trust to be built. And it's clear in this case, it's not happening right away.
Yeah, and it will come out. We'll see what happens there. All right, moving along here. This was we talked about this yesterday, was the increase in shootings in Seattle, and we've been saying it for a minute that it's been down there. People really say South Seattle, some stuff here in Central Seattle. Well, man, people are busting loose all over the city. This is a report right here by Steve Kiggins, Q13 News.
SPD tells us they've got a specialized unit working to push those numbers down, but they're on the rise. One of those recent shootings was right here in South Lake Union, where renters found themselves in the crossfire.
Yeah, I don't understand how a place like this could be having that much violence, or even violence in that type of manner.
Jalen Johnson has worked in South Lake Union for about a year. He says this morning his boss had a warning.
I was told by my job to just be careful in the area.
Seattle police say a fight on 9th Avenue North turned into a shooting Saturday night. 21 shell casings were recovered, and a 23-year-old man made his way to a local hospital, telling doctors he'd been shot in an alleyway. A stray bullet also ripped through an apartment building, missing the renters. South Lake Union is transformed into a tech hub. Now gun violence has also found a home.
Seattle's starting to become one of those places where you got to watch out for yourself and be careful.
It's definitely unnerving.
Crazy neighborhood.
In Lake City, 2 more people were shot late Sunday in a drive-by. The victims ended up crashing through the fence at Larry Wall's property on 31st Avenue North. The incident capped a 5th day in a row. Gun violence ripped through Seattle.
Well, it seems high, and I don't know. I'm not a big gun guy, so I figure if I don't own a gun, I won't meet up with one.
Between April 17th until today, SPD says 19 people have been injured or killed by gunfire. The violence has touched nearly every major neighborhood across the city. Since the beginning of the year, SPD has investigated more than 100 reports of gunfire, injuring 35 people and killing 7. Seattle Police admits the numbers are running higher than last year, and its gun violence unit is working to push those numbers down. Until then, neighbors worry the crossfire leaves everyone in danger.
What makes them want to do that for no reason?
I don't know. I don't know why this one happened. Does anyone know at this point?
So it's worth noting that each of these shootings is connected, and Seattle police has made arrests in a number of these cases, but there are still several obviously outstanding. If you have any information, if you have surveillance video, especially about some of these most recent shootings, you're asked to call SPD's tip line, their number, 206-233-5000. We're live in Seattle tonight. Steve Kiggins, Q13 News.
All right. You see a lot of red dots now creeping further north across the city. And, you know, this is something that we've been talking about here at Converge for a long time, Trey Holiday, is this issue of gun violence and the uptick in the city. And there's so many different variables that, you know, there's occurring, but like it's occurring. People are getting shot and dying
everywhere. And one of the things that I think is really key to note here, this is why the solutions around prevention, around ensuring that folks are kind of treated as the whole person, a lot of the kind of community solutions that have been on the ground need to be, spread wide. You know, ultimately they need more capacity so that they can cover a lot of these areas. And I think that it's also really key to note here when we talk about kind of a city divided, we have certain areas where, you know, folks move there thinking, oh, you know, I won't deal with this. And now clearly we see that it's all over the city. You can't really escape it based on your income, your class, whatever. Wealth is not stopping you from these random gunshots.
Yeah, and this is clearly a story that we'll continue to stay upon. So came across this. It's over as King 5 here, man. And they're talking about racist in Redmond of all places. You believe this? Racist people are putting up flyers on phone poles and utility boxes out in Redmond. This is from King 5.
Good morning. Well, we don't see those flyers up now this morning, but that could be thanks to Morgan Prater. He says he saw and removed at least 6 of those flyers on poles here near 160th and Redmond Way. Now take a look at your screen for video and pictures of those flyers. The text on one reads things like Africa for Africans, Asia for Asians, and equating hate speech with free speech. Another has unverified statistics comparing black and white violence. Messages Prater, who moved to Redmond from central Oklahoma in January, says he has no tolerance for. A freshman at DigiPen Institute of Technology, Prater says he took the flyers down to prevent anyone from getting hurt, saying messages of hate can turn into action quickly. He posted images of the flyers to social media, telling King 5 he wanted to be louder than the people who posted the flyers, saying racism is not okay.
I wanted to make sure that people stayed safe, and also that other white people like me, if or anyone really, if you see the posters, take them down. Don't let people say stuff like that or post stuff like that, because America's for everybody.
Now, another resident says she also saw the flyers near the power line trail just about 3 miles from here. As for Morgan, he says he did get in touch with the city of Redmond about the flyers. King 5 asked the city what they plan on doing. They responded and said they're looking into it. For now, reporting live in Redmond, Angelou Kakade, King 5 News.
I mean, come on now. I mean, you know, I just got to say immediately when you say, you know, racism in Redmond, I'll just tell you this right here is the sign language term for Redmond. They're literally doing this for Redmond, Kirkland. They're doing this because they're like, they think they're, you know, rich folks over there is snooty patooties. But the truth of the matter is that I worked for years in Redmond and I experienced a lot of this discrimination firsthand. So I just got to give a kudos to that young man for taking down the flyers, for being bold enough to reach out to the city, bold enough to reach out to King 5 so that people understand this cannot persist. So that's young man. I got to tell y'all, he's seeing himself as a part of the solution.
Yeah, so I only got one thing I be trying to figure out with this, right? Because, you know, it's like, you see this, it's like, yo, Africans, go back to Africa. Asians. So, like, you see where this is going, right? And so I'm like, oh, word? So all of us came over here except for the indigenous people, but like, you get to stay?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like, oh,
there's no Irish go back to Ireland, like Europeans go back to Europe. Like, I mean, that's a lot.
I mean, but you know, people should always realize, I like to call this out, man, because you know, it's easy to think that you live in a bubble here in the municipality of Seattle, and a lot of us we don't feel like we're in the bubble. But it's easy to think that, or even think that a lot of things that are happening are in trend with Seattle. People need to realize that even here in Seattle and King County, hate crimes are on the rise. And, you know, I mean, you got to remember, most likely the same person who's putting up the poster on the phone pole, they very well might be your barista, or they very well might be your teller at your bank. Like, these are our neighbors. These hate crimes and all these other things are happening. These are our neighbors, man. People aren't being imported in here and then doing this stuff. I mean, so these issues systemically have to be addressed, because this is what's up. Anyways, moving along here. This was a story I spotted in the Seattle Times. The writer's name is Nina Shapiro. We can go ahead and put this up. It says, voting rights battle in Washington state raises allegations of diluting Latino votes. And again, Nina Shapiro, the Seattle Times. And believe it or not, you know, this article right here, they're talking about basically voter suppression, or potentially voter suppression, over in Eastern Washington and Franklin County. For you guys that didn't pass a ninth grade Washington state history, Franklin County, the seat of that is Pasco, Washington. And right next to it is Benton County. And that's the rest of the Tri-Cities, right? There's Richland and Kennewick right there. So anyways, what they're saying in this article here is, and why I wanted to bring this up, because when we talk about voter suppression, everybody's like, oh, you know, these guys in Georgia and Florida and everything else. It seems like it might be something systemic that's over there. Hispanics make up 54% of Franklin County. That's where Pasco is out. No Hispanic representation on the 3-person board of commissioners over there. So it's a woman, Ana Ruiz Peralta. She won by a landslide in all the Latino precincts, but came in second in the primary and lost countywide. And so basically what they're saying, though, is the way that they've drawn the districts splits up all the Latino people. And so, like, they're all in 3 different districts. And 2 of the districts over there in Franklin County, it says, extends 40 miles from the city and into the rural county. And there's the Voting Rights Project, which has filed suit over there in Franklin County. And they've also filed suit in Yakima County, Benton County, which I mentioned, and that's Kennewick, and Richland and Chelan counties. And they're charging the signature matching process as discriminatory, that those counties declared mismatches and rejected ballots signed with Spanish last names between 3 and 3.9 times the rate of those with Anglo names, according to the suit. We've got this link here. And again, this is Nina Shapiro from the Seattle Times. It's a really good, long, in-depth article. But like I said, when you talk about suppression issues and everything else, people are thinking Georgia and Florida and Texas, man. This is just right on the other side of the Cascades.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that it really paints a picture of what we have to be mindful of right here in King County and in Washington State in general. There's a lot of different makeup when we talk about diversity and we talk about demographics across the state. And this is something that is so important and key, because we can no longer continue to be under this veil of, you know, we love everyone, this liberalism, this kind of even bubble that Omari was talking about. We can't live under that veil when we have these things happening within our state border. And ultimately, it is on us. I'm glad that Nina Shapiro is uplifting this right here in the Seattle Times, because we need to understand what's going on across the Cascades. And this is something that is, to me, it's just not okay, man. Clearly, there's some foolery happening when you're talking about counting those votes.
Disappointed but not surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, the link is in the comments. Follow up on that. We got one more headline here, and we're going to take a break, and we're coming back with Justin Carter, a Capitol Hill Seattle blog. So this is from our partners at the South Seattle Emerald. The writer is Shamade Ford. You know
Shamade.
Yeah. You can go ahead and put this up, please. Cliff Cawthorn, running for Kent City Council position 4, says he's running against incumbent Tony Trouter. And Cawthorn, he's an adjunct professor at Bellevue College, and looks like, you know, centering around community engagement, activists for housing justice, tenants' rights, workers' rights, racial justice. And this is interesting. He talks about down there in Kent creating a year-round farmers market to address food deserts, as well as setting up food banks down in Kent. But there's another brother running for Kent. city council.
I gotta say, I mean, we've been saying it for a long time that this is going to be a very interesting race all around. I think a lot of times we're talking about Seattle, but I love being able to bring in South King County city like Kent, showcasing that there is a need. There's a need for that diversity. There's a need for the voices to be present at the council level. And I think that it's important that, you know, Cawthorn and, you know, he's going out for this seat. And also too, you know, Kent is one of the most diverse cities we have actually throughout King County. And so it's really interesting that he has this platform of racial justice. It needs to be elevated out there.
Yeah. I mean, they said it definitely needs to be elevated. And I'm just, man, where don't it need to be elevated?
Right,
it's just like, dang, man. Can we remember? I wish we could still play our I just want to live, man. I just want to live. Yeah. That too much to ask for? Right. It's like, damn, you can't never just take your guard down. You know what I'm saying?
Never, bro.
But that's why I be ready to tell you every day, I'm ready to move back to Zanzibar. I'm ready to move back to Zanzibar. If the viewers only knew what it takes to get me on this show every hey, and it's COVID restrictions lifted, it might be a video link. All right, look, we're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we're joined by Justin Carter of Capitol Hill Seattle blog. You are watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. We're gonna have to coordinate our outfits better. See, I'm wearing a Bob Marley shirt. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, you got I see a green stripe in there.
Yeah, man, I needed to wear something easy going, getting up this early doing that show with Councilmember Morales, man. Early. All right, it's been a while since he's been here on the platform. We're so happy to have him back. Oh yeah, D'Alessandro. Please bring in Justin Carter, Capitol Hill Seattle blog.
Good morning, guys. How's it going?
Hey, bro.
Seems like everyone's in a good mood. I know you guys are probably tired, but it's been a good show, good day. I'm learning stuff left and right. I can't wait to go and get back to my computer and start working.
I'm gonna blame it on the coffee I'm drinking today, Justin.
Tell him better. He talking about he ready to go start working. Better him than us.
Right.
Well, I should announce my new site though. I'm starting up the Zanzibar news blog, so I'll be seeing
Zanzibar news blog. I'll take you with me, bro. We'll be out there. We'll write.
I would watch that movie. That would be a good movie.
You see what I'm saying? So now we've got you on here. We have a pretty good viewership and following from Capitol Hill. And you know, the name, of course, Capitol Hill Seattle blog, but you've consistently over the years covered issues in the Central District, our home neighborhood as well. And it's always very informational when we bring you on. We want to talk to you about a few different things today, and a few of them actually impact both neighborhoods, Capitol Hill and the Central District. The first one being the Sawant recall. And we'll go ahead and put this up here real quick. This was from the Capitol Hill Seattle blog. Here's what happened when Recall Sawant asked off-duty officers to join his campaign efforts on Broadway. Why don't you tell us all about it?
Yeah, well, what happened is a little bit of the Facebook comments come to life on the streets of Capitol Hill and around the Central District. The recall campaign, as many are aware, there's an effort to remove Shama Sawant from office. And right now, the recall campaign is working to gather the 10,000 signatures needed to put that on the ballot. As part of that effort, they put out a pretty interesting invitation a couple weekends ago, sending an email asking for Seattle Police Union members, whether they lived in D3 or not, to come out and join the group as they wave signs and gather signatures on Broadway and around Capitol Hill to try and raise support for the effort. Now, part of the reason the backers say they wanted to do that was just to have more people show up and have more of a positive presence for the recall campaign. But when I called and asked them more about why specifically SPOG, why police, off-duty police officers, that's when things even got a little more Facebooky. And the campaign manager is claiming that the recall campaign is being harassed by the Shama Solidarity Campaign, which has been created to support Sawant in fighting the recall effort. And they're basically asking for the off-duty police officers to be part of the campaign efforts as a safety measure to the recall campaign claims, though they also weren't able to provide any numbers saying whether any police officers showed up. And there's been no police intervention as far as actual crimes or assaults or anything like that involving the campaigns. But it's an interesting battle. It's seeing what happens when this thing moves onto the streets. The Sawant's campaign folks are a regular part of Broadway and a part of every, you go to a Capitol Hill grocery store, you're going to run into a Sawant person campaigning for something because they're always so busy with different initiatives. So as the recall campaign folks moving out into the streets now, they're running into these the Sawant supporters, and so we're getting these kinds of moments, and that'll probably be going on all summer as signature gathering continues.
Right. Do you think that that's like a polarizing move particularly in the Capitol Hill neighborhood of all neighborhoods to basically call for support for SPOG in particular?
Sure. I mean, everything's political in this situation, and this is also probably a calculated move that did bring attention, did draw some lines. I am not sure it's a smart political move. It depends on who you're trying to galvanize at this point. If you just need 10,000 signatures in District 3, you could probably find 10,000 people, who might have sympathetic leanings towards the police union around. It seems like a hard job sometimes to find that many people around here, but that might be a good strategy for now. The real question is, when it goes to the ballot, whether this kind of strategy is going to have long-term effects that are useful for the recall campaign. Having the police union support and being associated with SPOG doesn't seem like the wisest strategy when you're talking about trying to appeal to the middle, which the recall folks are going to need once the thing goes to the ballot later this year.
Absolutely. And I mean, something you said there really struck up a question for me, Justin, around the support for the recall effort. If they're, looking to off-duty officers and going to SPOG to say that really, we need the numbers. We need you to kind of come out for the numbers. What does that say to you?
Well, it says that there is a real problem in what I'll call the meat space. Once it moves out of the comments, once it moves into the real world, these kinds of political movements can face some real challenges, and the folks that actually show up are maybe just the most intense and most radical of believers, and the middle isn't necessarily going to get involved, and that's something you can see in any movement, but maybe is really on display here around recall as they're trying to do things like wave signs and have tables to gather signatures.
Yeah, I think, but before we move on to the next headline here, I think with me, people should just know that whether you're for Councilmember Sawant or against Councilmember Sawant got one of the best ground games in the city. That, I mean, man, the ground game in Team Sawant is real. And people, like, you either gotta like figure something out that don't really, like, you know what I'm saying, circumvent the ground game, or you're gonna have to step your ground game up, because their ground game goes hard, man.
Well, I also too, I mean, this kind of points another question for me, Justin, around, you know, the allegations, right? And even Sawant coming out and admitting to some things. Is that really enough to kind of lose a lot of the support that we saw? I mean, we talked about that 1,500, you know, being the difference between her and her opponent during the campaign. But I just wonder if, you know, these are such salacious allegations for the recall effort that really will kind of pull people from the middle towards the recall.
Yeah, I mean, the recall allegations, the formal ones that are going to appear on the ballot and be part of this complaint, are really about her actions during the protests last year and moments in the Black Lives Matter movement here in Seattle. And the Sawant Solidarity Campaign is working hard to make sure that that is a clear line in this debate, and that people look at it in that way as much as possible. They want people that are maybe in the middle to look at this as a question of, you know, of protest, and whether what people, you know, the things people were fighting for, and the reason that the Sawant rally happened inside City Hall, and the reason that these things that ended up in the allegations happened were for a positive, important movement. And that's what the Solidarity Campaign is about. And that's a message, you know, it seems like a really intelligent and probably effective message when it comes to the next step in this, after once it's on the ballot and you're talking about real, regular, across the district, from Central District to Montlake to First Hill, across Capitol Hill. When you're talking about those people, that's the kind of message that you think is going to have a pretty good, and it's going to resonate, because I think people understand the protests from that regard, and they understand why someone like Sawant was there to support them. And that's where the allegations start to wilt, it looks like. And so I do think that that's something we're going to hear a lot from the Solidarity Campaign.
Yeah.
All right. So we got a second headline here from Capitol Hill Seattle blog. Go ahead and put that up, all you. Seattle Parks makes call for Anderson summer event ideas. Organizers planning CHOP block party in June. Tell us about it.
Yes, there's two stories here, but they're really interconnected. And at one level, you have the city of Seattle working with a community group to kind of restart this effort around activating, as I say, putting people in Cal Anderson Park for things that the city considers positive events, like community gatherings and music or festivals and those kinds of things. And so there's a call out, even as we approach the anniversary of so many important events around CHOP and that happened in Cal Anderson, that the city's kind of ignoring those and focusing on, okay, well, how do we bring some of these events into the park this summer now that we're moving out of the restrictions from COVID? At the same time, there are some people that were involved with the formation around CHOP and have continued kind of to focus on some of the art aspects around that came out of CHOP, who are moving ahead on a plan for what they're calling a CHOP block party that would mark an anniversary mid next month, mid June, and it's extremely controversial. There are so many reasons that people are upset by it. There's a lot of reasons, though, to also think about how are we going to mark what happened around CHOP? How are we going to use Cal Anderson moving forward out of all this? But in the meantime, the controversy and the debate around the anniversary event has kind of overshadowed anything that the city's doing around trying to organize and activate the park.
Yeah, I mean, when I just first heard about this, there's a lot of thoughts that come to my mind, right? And, because there was such a wide range of activities during CHOP, when we talk about people losing their lives, when we talk about mothers and fathers losing their children, I just think that there's so much more in terms of, block party or celebration. I just don't know why they didn't think about more of a somber way of, having some type of reverence deterrence for the time at CHOP, which it sounds like that's really what they're trying to do. But I think a lot of the controversy is around this kind of full-on celebration. Is that right, Justin?
Yes, that's definitely the controversy that I'm hearing. There's a lot of concern about being respectful of the people who died around CHOP. There's also a lot of people who are concerned about the way it is remembered, and that a celebration of around like a block party is the wrong way to mark that. To some important updates that are actually just coming in this morning. Seattle Parks has made it clear that they are assessing the permit application for this CHOP anniversary event, but no permits have been issued. No funding has yet been provided. There are some considerations going on. I think the city is trying to figure out exactly how best to deal with this application. But at this point, nothing has been approved, and so there's a chance still that the organizers aren't going to be able to make this event happen, and that would buy, I guess, the city, the greater communities around CHOP, a chance to maybe look at, okay, well, what should be done? How do we mark what was a pretty important, hugely important moment, but part of a bigger movement? And what do we do to mark those dates and remember these things?
Yeah, I just and the organizer for this, the block party, Mark Anthony, he hit me up, actually wants to come on and talk about it, and we'll give him space to do that and talk about him. And I'll ask probably the same question to him as well. Man, I wish that I could really think of it as a party. I think that, and I don't want to confuse maybe poor word choice for poor intentions. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if block party, and we'll talk to Mark Anthony about it. When I talked to him over the phone and text a few times, he said there's lots of components to it. They want to celebrate the art that was there. They want to recreate some different things. Man, we was there for 30 days, man. Really, from June 1st, and the CHOP got swept July 1st. And I think that, and I don't want my personal experience to actually, I'm gonna move on to the next headline, because I don't want my personal experience to sit here and impact people. But it's like, I can see how some people would have come to CHOP, went to teach-ins, went to concerts, did painted and everything, and went home. And I can understand how some people's perspective around CHOP was very much, uplift. We call it CHOPchella, Coachella, and all of that and everything else. But, I think that I bring the baggage into this conversation of being there 30 days, 24 hours, and whatever. And so I saw the good and the bad. But yeah.
Yeah.
So
sorry to be the downer, Justin. We got
No. Actually, let's just not go forward just yet. Let's just say, so bring that. I think that conversation and that luggage, that you call it baggage, I'll call it experience. I think we should bring that into this. The thing I'll say is that this is going to be remembered and is going to be marked. If it's some city created event, is that what we want to see? So this is, I think, these big events that happen in history, they are remembered, and we're watching the way that history is going to be made right now. And you can see how frustrating it is to see it play out. And this, I think, is an opportunity. I think there's time to do something. And it might be that this is a chance to kind of, snuff out these dumb parts of history where we say, you know what, we're not going to make this an anniversary. We're not going to remember it that way. There was bigger things going on that were defining so much around this. And maybe that's what comes out of it. But I do think that the opportunity is here for people to try and define the pieces that are going to be marked as history and the way these things get remembered. And so this is like a step. It might be a clumsy first step, but it is a step that someone's trying to do. And this is how this is how we remember things in cities. This is how these things get formed. And yeah, it can be really frustrating.
Yeah, where hope you'll join us. I haven't sent you an email, but man, Converge Media, we're returning to the Hill the first week of June. So we'll be broadcasting live from up there. on Capitol Hill, Cal Anderson Park. That's where we were 1 year ago. And so, we'd love to have you up there during those live broadcasts. We've got one more headline for you, and this is really with people when it comes to public transit and link light rail and all that good stuff. You go ahead and throw this one up, all you. New and improved trains now, new connections soon as Capitol Hill Station readies for riders to return. All right, tell us about it.
Yeah, well, this is good positivity. This is looking forward. There's new trains running around on the light rail tracks around Seattle, and that's what a lot of our story is about. But I think I'll talk a little bit about some of the other aspects around light rail in Seattle. And one of the pieces of the puzzle that haven't been talked about as much maybe is what's going on with Judkins Park and Judkins Park Station, which I just realized is hard for me to say. It's going to be an amazing change for that area down around the park and around a neighborhood that's been divided by I-90 for decades. It's an amazing new piece of public transit that's going to come into the neighborhood. Doesn't go online until 2023, which I know feels like a long time, but we are good at patience now. We just made it through the pandemic. We can do this, and we're so close. And it's going to be a real hub of new activity. There's housing that's starting to really develop around there, and changes that have some decent affordability components to try and keep displacement at least lower. So the story about the new trains is great. And, Capitol Hill Station is still below, I think, down like 80% year over year as far as ridership goes. We're not back yet, but people are starting to ride more. But I'm looking also at things like the Judkins Park Station coming online in 2023 as some of the real positive and exciting things to look forward to in the city coming not that far away.
Yeah, well, I'll say this too. I think that in terms of, Sound Transit making connections with the train, really, it's been big. I think it's been huge for the city, and it's expanding as you just talked about right here. Judkins Park Station, Capitol Hill Station, kind of getting its, feet under its legs, also expanding further into South King County. So there's a lot of work being done from the Sound Transit perspective. I think when we talk about this, though, and I know so many in community, they begin to worry. So I'm glad that you mentioned some of the affordability. This is a question that I just have because I'm not sure if these areas have really thought about community preference policy as they start to open up transit opportunities. Are they doing anything that's direct to say, hey, if you were displaced from this area, now's an opportunity to move back?
Yeah, no, and I think that is an area of affordability was probably the simplest way for an agency like Sound Transit to look at some of these problems a decade ago, and these plans, they can take a really long time to form, but there's probably a more granular way to address the issues around displacement that maybe aren't reflected yet in some of the way that Sound Transit does deal with its land and some of the development that's happening around these transit hubs. And so it's things like the Liberty Bank building, those kinds of templates hopefully can be scaled to future station planning. I don't know around Judkins Park. In some ways, it's weird to say this about something that doesn't open until 2023. Some of those things, it's already too late, and you're going to see such radical change that we're concerned about. But the good news is that the big systems like Sound Transit are learning from things like what's happened with the more equitable development around things like the Liberty Bank building and what Community Roots Housing is doing, and inviting developers like Community Roots Housing into its developments like they did at Capitol Hill Station. And those things help. And we have affordable housing above Capitol Hill Station. We don't have a ton of it, but we have some, and that's a pretty good start.
Yeah, but and I agree with you there that is affordable housing there. But years ago, some of the best memories I had up on Capitol Hill was I had so many buddies who lived up there on the hill. And guess what? when they started construction and people knew that that train was coming, the landlords doubled and tripled their rents, and they all live in South King County. So it's great that Capital Roots Housing has one building now that's going on top of the station. And I don't downplay that, because housing here is in, you know what I'm saying, it's in high demand. But a lot of people, and this is something that's not talked about, of all the people who were displaced once it was known that a train was coming through. And Capitol Hill has one of the best setups ever. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's one ride to Husky Stadium, it's one ride to downtown, and everything else. That's a great hub that they have up there on the hill. And, you know, I mean, clearly people need public transit and everything else, but I always just think about how when that train comes in, what happens is a lot of our people, and, you know, some of everybody, they get pushed out. And then, you know, they comes back, they got a building or two. But man, we talk about people's whole lives, everything they knew. Some people lived up on the hill 10, 15 years, longer than that. And their rents doubled and tripled intentionally because people knew that this train was coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love that you uplift that, because oftentimes it's not talked about. We're talking about the expansion of services. So Justin, thank you for, you know, uplifting that. But I think you're right. It's kind of something that a lot of people are a little bit concerned with.
That's your neighborhood, Justin. That's your turf. Is there any validity to what I'm talking about? Have you seen that experience up on the hill where people got pushed out because the train was coming in?
We definitely saw displacement around Capitol Hill Station. It probably was most well documented around some of the business displacement that happened. A lot of small businesses and a couple of businesses owned by people of color got booted, either because of the need for demolition or because rent started to rise as the station came closer to opening. There was a community priorities process, though, around the development. It, like a lot of these kinds of processes, ends up being diluted, watered down. And so you have to decide, are you going to be a pessimist or an optimist when you look at something like the Capitol Hill Station community plan, and that called for a percentage of units being affordable housing, and things like allowing a space for the Capitol Hill Farmers Market to have a permanent weekend home in the plaza. Those are the kinds of small things that were won in the community process. You know, the big things, the big changes, those happened, and it's, you know, it's in some ways asking a process like the development around the stations to solve all the problems. You know, you're not asking for that, I know, but it's about picking out some battles, and some community groups would look at Capitol Hill Station as representing some really good, important wins from almost 20 years of community work.
Yeah. You know, my last comment on this is that it's not just about the city, because I see it happening in South King County as they're building stations in Federal Way, and now home prices are just soaring. So it does go across the board here. It's true.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Well, it's a good reminder to ask for a lot. I mean, it is a reminder that in the process, it's going to be a compromise when it's all said and done. And, you know, a great negotiating tactic is to come in high. And so the community, I think, hopefully, you know, as things come together more quickly, we learn more. Maybe we learn to ask for more, and we learn to ask for things to be more affordable and more diverse and more mixed, and we move forward that way.
I think that unfortunately in our fair city, and perhaps cities across America, that poor people always pay the price for progress.
Yeah.
We'll clearly say that, you know, the rail is progress. Some of these other things is progress. You know, someone was telling me now that Seattle now is more of an international city. Again, it came at the expense of moving poor people out. And, you know, we're constantly using the yardstick of progress, and it comes at the expense of poor people. But Justin Carter, man, thank you so much. It's been a long time. You literally, you can tell I ain't seen you in a long time, because you literally are a sight for sore eyes. We're so happy to have you back here on the Morning Update Show. You can tell people real quick, how can I reach you online?
Come see me at CapitolHillSeattle.com and read all about Zanzibar.
That's my buddy. You're gonna find me and Justin on the beach we gonna be on Zanzibar chilling. That's our new blog spot.
There we go.
Catch you later, bro. Thank you so much for your
Bye,
time.
Justin.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's always good when Justin stops by. It's been a
Absolutely.
while, man.
Yeah.
It was really good to see him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to just bring everybody down. It was just, because there are a lot of people that came up to Capitol Hill and they were different, whatever. I just have a unique experience, you know what I'm saying, of 24 hours a day there for 30 days. And so my outlook is a bit different. But we'll talk to Mark Anthony, and where there's a few other groups that we need to actually give space to as well. So if we bring Mark Anthony on here, there's a few other groups as well that we need to give space to. I just know that, man, for me, when you say Seattle protests, you say CHOP, man, it's an emotional thing, not only for myself and my colleagues in here,
Yeah.
for Oya and Jake's out there and a few other people who this was, man, it was a lot. Look, we're going to take a quick merch break. We got some good news about the late, great Maya Angelou. You're watching the Morning Update Show. All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I'm going to jump into this clip and get your thoughts right after Trey Holiday. But I caught this on CBS this morning. It looks like the U.S. Mint and the Treasury, they got a new program where they're putting faces of influential and impactful women on the tail side of the quarter. And this clip right here, they talk about Maya Angelou and Sally Ride.
Here, root yourselves beside me. I am that tree planted by the river which will not be moved.
With her reading of On the Pulse of Morning when Bill Clinton was first sworn in as president in 1993, Maya Angelou became just the second poet in history to recite a poem at an inauguration. Now she's making history again as one of 20 distinguished women who are about to be honored by the U.S. Mint, appearing on a series of quarters starting next year.
And liftoff of STS-7 and America's first woman astronaut.
Also being honored, trailblazing astronaut Sally Ride, who became the first American woman in space on the Shuttle Challenger in 1983. The women will be featured on the reverse or tail side of the coin starting next January. Michelle Thompson is the project manager.
It's a huge deal. The American Women Quarters program gives the opportunity to have women out there on circulating coins. Their legacies, their achievements, they're all going to be captured on pocket change for generations.
The U.S. Mint will oversee the design work. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen will approve the nominees and final design. And while the front or head side will continue to feature a likeness of George Washington, he'll be getting a makeover to distinguish the new coins, with several options being considered. The other 18 honorees who have yet to be announced will come from a wide variety of fields.
We're looking for a very broad, diverse group of women, because that's what we have in America, and they're the type of women who have shaped where we are as a nation.
Wow, that is a great story indeed, and fills me with so much joy. I mean, when we think about the legacy of the Maya Angelou, honestly, it's a beautiful thing that she'll be honored in this way. And as they said, for generations to come. I love that.
Well, I knew you would.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is why we put that in there.
Thank you.
I wanted to get a smile out of Trey Holiday.
I appreciate it. And honestly, I know that our audience appreciates it too. Every time we can always make sure the show is ending on a beautiful, uplifting note.
Yeah, no, for sure. So real quick, we got Chats with Trey. We've been talking about that Chats with Trey this Friday at 2:00. And your guest is David Sarju. Yeah. And we actually have a clip here from the show.
We recognize, Random Scholars recognizes the family is foundational. And that's something I wish that a lot of other organizations would key on. And then when families wobble, then we have to support them too. That may be economically, that may be social services, but we have to be able to support the family wherever they are so that they can support the child. No organization can do that alone, nor should try to take that role out of the parent's hand.
Absolutely. I think David dropped some real gems with regard to education. David Sarju there, an educational advocate, worked in a wide variety of educational platforms and services. And honestly, I think, when we talk about the diversification of opportunities for our young people, honestly, we need a lot of people in that space bringing their brilliance to it so it can actually benefit from, the perspectives of so many different people. So I love him being on the show, talking about himself as a father and an educational advocate.
Yeah, I know everybody done ran with it, but that African proverb is true. It takes a village. And so, yeah, we need our village.
Yeah.
So this is Friday at 2 p.m., right?
Absolutely. Friday at 2 p.m., y'all. Everywhere you guys are watching the Converge show right here, you guys can catch Chats with Trey Friday at 2 this week.
All right, good stuff. So tomorrow, and I'm excited for tomorrow because I got some experience, not as experienced as these commissioners, but I got some experience with ports and working with ports internationally, import, export, the port of Rotterdam, that's in the Netherlands, the port there in Dubai, the port in Mombasa, the port in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, even the little itty bitty port there on the island of Zanzibar. And so tomorrow we have handcrafted motion graphic here. Peter Steinbrook, and Peter is a port commissioner in position number 4. And yeah, it's an election underfoot. It's a race underfoot. And so Peter Steinbrook is going to be here tomorrow. We're talking about the port. And Peter's going to share his platform and some everything else. So we got this. This will be the first active commissioner, but we've got 2 people who've been on, Hamdi Mohammed and Toshiko Hasigawa.
Yeah,
was on here, and they're both running. And now we're going to have Peter Steinbrook here, who's actually on the commission. And I think we're going to have another commissioner next week. You know what I'm saying? I'm real interested in these port conferences. People don't realize is like we sleep on a lot of stuff here because it just seems normal or whatever. But when you travel a lot, you really connect the dots. The port is a key economic driver anywhere in the world. Some of the biggest wars throughout the history of mankind have been fought over control of ports. And, it's real interesting here. I want somebody to be able to tell me how directly outside of jobs, and people should get jobs. That should be a given. How is our community benefiting from the port? How is the port an economic driver? Because a lot of times here, we are just in the final mile in the consumer phase. But believe me, billions and billions of dollars worth of stuff come through these ports. And I want to know how we're benefiting.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're going to have an active commissioner on to give us a little bit more of the details. I mean, we talked about platforms, that, folks are running for and how they're running and why they want to run. And really, there was such a thorough line of bringing diversity to the port. So it'll be interesting to hear from Peter Steinbrook and see, how is he going to be responding to that call for diversity? What are they really doing at the port right now? I'm excited, honestly. I think you're right. It's going to be a very interesting day tomorrow.
And like I said, I'm not really, so this is where the conversation is now, right? Before, Black people just totally excluded from the port.
Right.
And then there was a fight for just, to get jobs at the port and get in there. And so, those, and now the conversation, at least where I'm at, and so I'm not really so much on like, okay, jobs, no jobs. We're supposed to have jobs.
Right.
I'm like, how is this port benefiting directly people of color? And I'm not talking about putting a kiosk in the SeaTac airport or something like that. I'm like the true economic power of imports and exports. How is this impacting our community? right? And so we're going to discuss it tomorrow. Any last words before we get out of here?
Oh, you guys know, I mean, it's always an important time to see yourself as a part of the solution. We've been on or since early this morning. So I just encourage you to find ways to do so. There's a lot of people out there. We ran that story of that young man up there in Redmond who was taking down posters, just seeing himself as a part of the solution by taking away a lot of the hate that he was experiencing through those posters. And I just encourage all of you, if you guys have to challenge, racism, challenge oppression or discrimination on your job, your school, your youth athletic team, in your neighborhood or community, do so. It takes all of us to make this change really stick and to really be sustainable. So see yourself as part of the solution always.
That's always good advice. All right. Well, what's today? It's only
Today's
Tuesday.
I know. Just Tuesday.
That's it, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we're gonna get out of here. I'm going back to bed. It's already been a long day, and it's just 12 o'clock. But yeah, on a serious note, want to remind everybody to please go forward in your purpose, go forward in your humanity, and until tomorrow at 11 a.m. There it is. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rise.